Here we are at the part of the show where for the next 20 minutes we're hitting the hot topics you will be talking about during the lunch table, the dinner table here today. First up, former President Bill Clinton says it is time to dump DOMA. You know DOMA, acronym for Defensive Marriage Act. It was the act that Clinton actually signed into law 17 years ago. It defines marriage as a union between men and women. Well, now Clinton is loudly jumping on the rainbow bandwagon, writing this editorial in the Washington Post, urging the Supreme Court to find DOMA unconstitutional and discriminatory. Let me bring in my panel on this Friday. We have blogger co-founder Jory Desjardins, radio host Dee Dee McGuire, Columbia University professor Marc Lamont Hill, also with HuffPost Live, and economist and comedian Bill Stein. Welcome to all of you. Ben Stein.
Thank you.
What did I say? Bill, come on. I know, Ben Stein. A slip of the tongue, my friend. I apologize. Marc Lamont Hill, let me begin with you. What do you make of the fact that Osama bin Laden's son-in-law will be tried in Manhattan?
You know, I have mixed feelings about it. On the one hand, New York has had a lot of pain. New York has been through a lot. We all, as a nation, felt the tragedy of 9/11, but New York had a special pain to it. And so to that extent, I think it's a good idea. People want to see him, you know, tried somewhere like Gitmo. We want to close Gitmo, so you don't want him there. All of that makes sense. My only problem is this creates more of a spectacle. It becomes extremely costly to have a trial like this in New York. It puts the big red terrorist bullseye on New York City. I'm not sure it's the safest or financially smart thing to do, but it does help the city heal, so I can go either way with this.
We're going to get to Clinton here in just a minute. We're going to get to Clinton. Forgive me, I jumped ahead, where we're talking about how Osama bin Laden's son-in-law will be tried in Manhattan and not at all in Guantanamo Bay. And we're also hearing from some Republicans who are absolutely livid, let me just jump in, who say he should be tried in Guantanamo, specifically reading a quote from Mike Rogers, chair of the House Select Intelligence Committee, saying, quote, "We should treat enemy combatants like the enemy. The U.S. court system is not the appropriate venue. The president needs to send any captured al-Qaeda members to Guantanamo." So, Mark, kind of perplexed. Ben Stein, what do you think?
Well, when we were capturing German prisoners during World War II, or Japanese prisoners, not many of them, during World War II, we didn't send them for trial. They're enemy combatants. I think they go to Guantanamo Bay, and they're kept there for so long as the military determines they should be kept there. Look, these guys are still dangerous. The idea of bringing them to New York, creating a target for the al-Qaeda to attack and to blow up, that just doesn't make any sense to me. And as my friend Professor Hill said, or Lamont Hill, there's no point in spending all this money on it when we're supposed to be saving money. I just don't see any plus to it whatsoever.
I mean, Ben brings up an interesting point. Do you all agree? Are there fears of retaliation, of attacks in Manhattan? Granted, this is on a much smaller scale than we would have seen with KSM, Khalid Sheikh Mohammed, and other masterminds of 9/11. That was then, you know, taken to Guantanamo back in 2010. But do you fear that? Jory.
You know what, I was going to say, oh, go ahead, I'm sorry.
You know, I don't care if it's Guantanamo or I don't care where it is. I do think that we need to heal, and I do think that we have to have a trial nonetheless. I do think, though, that people heal differently, and some people really will have a lot of pain come up as a result of this trial. It's not the trial of the century. We can't treat it like the trial of the century. But I do think we need to have it.
Go ahead, Dee Dee. I
agree with you. I was going to say I totally agree. I just think that this right here is closure. I think New York, the nation, we want to see closure. I think that when we found out about bin Laden, the capture and everything of bin Laden, and how that went down, we didn't get a chance to really know until after the fact. And I just think that this right here could help with closure, not just for New York, but for the nation. That is something that is so memorable to all of us.
Healthy closure.
Is closure really possible?
With all due respect to Ms. McGuire, there's never going to be closure when you have an attack like this that kills 3,000 people.
Well, you talk to those families,
totally
wait a minute. Talk to the
there's never going to be closure.
I guarantee you, if you talk to the families, excuse me, if you talk to the families, I guarantee they're going to say they want closure. You can say you don't, but think about those families who lost loved ones.
Ben's not, hold on, but Ben's not saying he doesn't want
closure when someone murders your husband.
Oh, it's like real quick. I don't think Ben's saying he doesn't. I don't think Ben's saying he doesn't want closure. He's saying it's hard to actually have closure. But one of the things that we often confuse for closure in this country is bloodlust. That if we just go around assassinating people or having kangaroo court, we can somehow feel better about ourselves. I say, let us be the paragon of democracy. Let's have an actual trial. Don't send them to Gitmo, which we swear we're going to close. Let's have a real trial.
But we never see what goes on there. We never know. We never see what happens. I mean,
well, this time we will. This time we will absolutely see what goes on with the fact that this will be playing out in court.
Well, what's he going to be charged with? What would he be charged with if he were in trial? He's not a U.S. citizen, so it can't be treason. What's he going to be charged with? He's going to be charged with being an enemy combatant. That is not a crime under U.S. code, so he should just be treated as a military prisoner. That's what he is.
Wow. But when you hear from Peter Bergen, CNN terrorism analyst, written books on this kind of thing, he says when you look at the military panels, they've barely accomplished anything. Just one opinion here, one opinion amongst many. Let me move on.
I promise. Keep him there till he rots.
I promised, let's move on. I promised Bill Clinton reversing this stance on DOMA. Is he protecting his legacy? We will talk about that in this opinion he's written now and looking ahead. Coming up. Back to the panel, back to Bill Clinton here, writing this opinion piece in the Washington Post. Here he is. I mean, how often do you have a president who is basically asking the Supreme Court to strike down a law that he signed, the Defense of Marriage Act? Jory, I want to begin with you. Curious if you think he's doing this just to protect a legacy.
Yes, I do, and I applaud it. I think that every politician has the right to change their mind. I wish they did it more because we wouldn't have the problems that we have now with Congress. But I also don't think that there's anything wrong with changing your mind afterwards. I personally believe that Clinton did what he felt he had to do at the time, which in a country that clearly did not have any laws that were protecting people who gay people who wanted to get married, he had to do what he had to do. He had to pick his battles. And I think it's he still believed that he could go back and write this. And it's a time when he
Mark,
can write it.
why are you shaking your head? Why are you shaking your head?
Two things. One, I don't think he changed his mind. I think his stance on gay marriage is the exact same that it was 20 years ago. And I don't think that he did what he had to.
So then why sign the bill into law?
Well, he signed it into law because he knew that it would help him get re-elected. He knew he would be able to support his base. This isn't an outlier. If you look at President Clinton's legacy, 3 strikes bills, the crime bill, Prison Litigation Reform Act, Defense of Marriage Act, he imposed lots of laws that essentially allowed the right to support him, to make him this centrist bipartisan candidate. It helped him, it endeared him to the right, it endeared him to the South.
It
made him a stronger candidate.
What was your point number two?
This is all calculation.
I totally agree.
Point number 2, Mark.
I agree with that, but here...
Those were the 2 points.
Here's what I was going to... Oh.
One, he didn't change his mind, and 2, he didn't have to do it. He could have vetoed any bill that was going over his desk. He did it because he wanted to, because like all Clintons, he did what was in his best interest.
Got it. Didi, go ahead.
I totally agree with that. And to say that it would be, is it going to be a part of his legacy? I mean, I think that that's already a part of President Obama. My only thing about this one is, why are we tripping when politicians flip-flop? I like that. I like knowing that you're not perfect and it's either black or white. I like the fact that you could say, hey, I was wrong, and it takes a big person, a big man.
But he's not.
But
he's not saying I was wrong. He's lying.
Hang on just a second, because some people are saying, hold on.
He's lying. He's lying. He's pretending, he's rewriting history. He's pretending that there was this moment where he just had to sign this bill to protect gay people from the Supreme Court. No, he did it so he could be reelected as president.
Listen, this happened not too long ago when you had these 72 plus Republicans, pretty prominent Republicans, and some would argue no longer really in the spotlight, signing that America's brief, basically wanting to do away with Prop 8, right? And a lot of people came forward and said, they're flip-floppers, and a lot of people, Didi, say that you should not be flip-flopping. You should stay true to your core values, and now that they're out of politics, it's okay. I'm just saying that's what some folks...
Hold on a second. You guys act like... Okay, hold on a second. Everybody acts like there's no such thing called I was wrong, growth, standing up and saying... I had to meet somebody. I used to think a certain way.
I want to hear your voice.
I met a couple. I met a couple who changed my mind. Yeah, and I met a couple who changed my mind. It's okay to change your mind and to flip-flop. And you guys act like it's a bad thing that somebody can finally be enlightened and say...
I just don't think it's flip-flopping
what other people are saying. Ben Stein, I want to hear from you.
But the whole world has changed. The whole world has changed now. The gay population of this country is incredibly well organized. They've made a lot of good points. They have incredible political clout. The whole world has changed completely in the time since he signed that bill. And now he's just going along with the flow now as he did then. The flow now.
Exactly.
He has more impact now.
You mean to tell me you can't feel one way? Hold on a second. We can't feel one way 17, 20 years ago and change our minds today? Is that what you guys are saying?
Of course we do.
That's not what I'm saying.
Change our mind. He's a politician, for God's sake. He's not a saint. He's not a pope. He's a politician.
Nobody said he was a saint.
He goes with the flow.
Ben Stein gets the last word there. Ben Stein gets the last word there. Coming up, 2 words, Justin Bieber break. Woo!